Let's hit it. Hootie Hoot Productions presents the Sports Deli Podcast, where everyone deserves a seat at the table, where we discuss the intersection between race and sports, mental health, leadership, and equality. To find out more about the Sports Deli Podcast, check us out online at thesportsdelipodcast.com. We are starting to have free giveaways. If you hear giveaway anywhere in the podcast, send us an email to thesportsdeli@gmail.com with giveaway in the subject heading, and in the body of the email, give us the answer to that podcast's specific question.
When you hear someone say, make America great again, the first question you have is, well, when was America great?
What I would say about Tom
Brady, yeah.
If you don't want to be in this fight, then don't put a Make America Great hat up in your locker. Silently now, it appears that you are with the other group. Just don't get in the way.
Yeah. Stephen A. Smith is my alter ego. Go somewhere else with that shit.
John, she's roasting your ass.
Colin Kaepernick, he's a hero in the same way that John Carlos and Tommy Smith were heroes.
That when George Floyd called out to his mother, he called out to all mothers, and I heard his call.
So do you have white privilege?
Absolutely. Now we have to be a voice as white people.
African American women last year changed the course of this nation. Women are the backbone, and now we need to support the souls that they stand on.
And now, whether you're folding laundry, driving, exercising, or cooking, grab your favorite deli sandwich or bagel and your favorite beverage, and let's do this together in the Sports Deli. Auntie, take us away. We're so honored to welcome our 17th WNBA player, 232 days away from the 50th anniversary of Title IX, Chasity Melvin. Sports Deli is sponsored by PSK. You can find them online at lids.com, pskcollective.com, tjmax.com, walmart.com, and now Kohl's department store at kohls.com. And now back to this incredible interview right here in the Sports Deli. On this third day of National Inspirational Role Models Month, which Chasity is, and then some, the pride of Roseboro, North Carolina, which is 65 miles from the University of North Carolina, in case you were wondering, will share her incredible journey of faith, near-death experiences, and struggles growing up. When her mother told Chasity one day growing up that there's no professional women's basketball leagues, Chasity replied, "There will be one day, and I'm going to play." But it was her grandmothers that ran the show and inspired her to follow her dreams that she modeled her life after, that Chasity said would have been amazing CEOs had they had the opportunity, as they led from their Southern soul. She always played against men growing up, so she wasn't intimidated, and this helped her lead her Lakewood High School team to a state championship. She then went on to lead her college team, NC State, to a Final Four under the legendary late Hall of Fame coach, Kay Yao. Chasity, interestingly, scored 37 points in her last game as a high school senior during the state championship run, and had 37 points in her last game during the Wolfpack's Final Four loss to La Tech. She also had 15 free throw attempts in that semifinal game, which was at the time an NCAA record. We will chronicle her incredible story of courage and resiliency, which took her from small town America to several big cities around the world. Her college coach, Kay Yao, was the catalyst for Think Pink, the Women's Basketball Coaches Association's Pink Zone, now known as Play for Kay. Coach Yao, who battled cancer for 22 years, passing away in 2009, saw a way to bring communities together and honor cancer warriors in the fight against all cancers affecting women. You can find out more information at Play 4K, where they have raised nearly $10 million since its inception in 2007. She's in the NC State Hall of Fame and in the Sampson County Athletic Hall of Fame, and one of the ACC's top 50 athletes of all time. Chasity played in the ABL for the Philadelphia Rage as the second overall pick, and then in the WNBA for 12 amazing years. She was one of the pioneers of the W, and she also played overseas in Spain, Russia, Poland, South Korea, Italy, Israel, Turkey, and China for 14 years. She's coached AAU and high school basketball, as well as for the Michael Jordan-owned Charlotte Hornets' G League team, the Greensboro Swarm, as an assistant coach in 2018, becoming the first woman to coach in franchise history. She had planned to coach at Loyola of Maryland, a Division I program, but COVID scrapped that idea. As an assistant coach with the Phoenix Mercury, she's had the honor to coach 3 of the WNBA's best players currently in Brittany Griner, Skylar Diggins-Smith, and to many the GOAT, the greatest of all time, Diana Taurasi. When she played for the Washington Mystics, she played with Crystal Robinson, who was also on our show and who was arrested in the middle of our podcast. She's an author, and you can find her book, At the End of the Day, an unblinking account of the faith that sustained her through bullying, near-death experiences, and struggles of all kinds. And it was God that inspired her to write the book. She is stubbornly tenacious and resolute in her beliefs, especially in spaces where people have been systemically marginalized and profiled. Chasity is the third person from NC State to join us on the show, the other two being Aislinn Koenig, future WNBA player, and Z King, professional women's soccer player. She shares a birthday with James Brown and was born the same year as Peyton Manning, Brad Stevens, Tim Duncan, and former teammates Nakia Sanford and Betty Lennox. You can find her on Instagram and Twitter at Chasity Melvin, where she has nearly 10,000 followers, and on her website at chastitymelvin.com. The reason I'm so excited and really honored to have you on is because you asked me a question a long time ago when I was first asking you to come on the show if I had read an article in Sports Illustrated. And, you were vetting me just as much as I was trying to, learn about my guests. And I appreciate that because we're an anti-racist podcast and we're trying to create safe spaces for people. And so I understood what you were doing. I really appreciate the fact that you wouldn't come on unless you felt it was a safe space. And, maybe specifically you wanted to talk about some of the things you were asking me to read in that Sports Illustrated article, which I will direct people to later. But truly, and I mean this, we've had Auntie on, Crystal, your good friend. We've had a lot of people on from the W, but truly honored that you felt comfortable enough coming on to the Sports Deli podcast today, where everyone deserves a seat at the table.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So when I listened to the podcast that you were on, that you have on your website, chastitymelvin.com, you said a lot of interesting things, and I encourage people to go listen to that as well once they're done with this podcast. But can you just touch on the influence that your grandmother's had on your life? Because I love to talk about where people came from and how they became who they are and felt so empowered and supported at a time when really you were on the cusp of when, women really weren't playing sports professionally in particular.
Yeah, I mean, for me, my grandmothers were just important. I mean, they were just the matriarch of the families. We were raised on a farm. So my grandmothers were always, seemed like they worked all the time. It was nonstop. So for me, I learned about hard work very early on, whether they were helping, their sisters or helping other people with their kids or babysitting or just, there were always some tasks from, dawn to dusk, as they said back in the day. So I learned how to work hard at a very young age. And I knew at a very young age also that I didn't want to be doing what my grandmothers were doing. And so, I made sure that, education was important and also just had other goals. But I think just their confidence with everything was really instilled in me. I felt like my grandmothers weren't afraid of anything. They were always the mediators in like family business. And, it just seemed like they were always in charge. Everyone had a lot of respect for them. So,
but as you've gotten into business, don't you find it fascinating how incredibly thoughtful they were as people when they were living in a time when they had every right to be angry and resentful at the world, and they didn't gossip, as you said in that podcast. They didn't do anything except treat people equally. And if that's not one of the indicators on how to run a business, is how to treat people. And they exemplified that, according to you, beautifully, no matter who they were. And I wish I would have seen them in action as CEOs, because they would have been amazing.
Oh yeah, they would have been amazing. They would have been amazing at whatever they, would have had the opportunities to do, but definitely like they had the old school wisdom. So a lot like, my former coach at NC State, the late Coach K. Yao.
Yeah.
So I carry a lot of their wisdom with me. My friends make fun of me all the time when I would say something like, well, my grandma used to say this, or my grandma would say this. I mean, everything is like short and sweet, but it always made sense, and it was always very valuable advice. So at the end of the day, I still carry that with me. So they didn't have like the education, the college education, and get masters and everything, but they had a PhD on life, So I just carry that with me.
It's interesting. I have all these show notes, and I'm going in a completely different direction, which is cool because as an old soul, I can feel that spirit shining through. For those of you listening, I hope you can feel that as well, because it's just an amazing thing when you feel someone's vibration. And it's interesting because I had a conversation with Anisha Curry, who I'm sure you know. She's now an assistant coach with the Portland Trailblazers. She was on the men's side as well, like you were at Maine. And so I was just, I say hello to people, and they don't know me from Adam in the beginning, just like Crystal told me to hang up when she was arrested in the middle of our podcast. And she was like, I don't need you to be recording this. And, now we're good friends. And she was a teammate of yours. And one of the things Coach Curry said was, in the middle of our conversation on IG, I was just asking how she was doing. And it went down a road of, because, people think that I might have a hidden agenda and I just want to get 25 people from the WNBA on the show, or professional coaches, just to say that I have. And, that's not what it's about. It's about mobilizing, helping to be a part of policy changes, being on think tanks, connecting, and maybe even influencing.
Right.
And so she went down a road where she said, even though she was excited about her new opportunity, that she is exhausted. And I knew it wasn't just about life. I knew it was about being a Black woman. She was tired, and she wasn't given much grace.
Right.
And she wasn't given the same kind of grace that other people had been given. So there's this dichotomy of, she's been given this opportunity as a woman in male spaces, and now in the NBA, but she's tired. She had over 100 unread DMs that she hadn't gotten to. And she's spending 30 minutes with me talking about this stuff. I literally started crying. I can't imagine what it's like being someone of color trying to navigate the spaces that you navigate. Talk about that.
I think it's challenging on all fronts, but to whom much is given, much is expected. Obviously, it's challenging when you're trying to chase your goals and dreams, and a lot of people think you have a lot of answers, but you're kind of.
So you got the cat going over there, and I had the dog going. You see that? You see how that works?
It's my nephew. So
it's your nephew's cat. That's classic.
I'm traveling, so he wants to talk now, but it's cool.
Go ahead. Yeah, that's hilarious.
So
you see how the signs? You see how the signs come through? Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Maybe that was grandma.
Probably.
You never know.
It's just challenging, and at the end of the day, it's just part of your being.
I know, but it's not that simple, right? It's not. We can't oversimplify the importance of what the women of the W did, what you were a part of, changing policy, taking a stand, but I've talked about this in every show, right? Because it's important. Right. How do we thoughtfully massage these new narratives that are necessary, that can lead to children seeing the world differently and policy changes, so that there's a more equitable place and people can be anti-racist, which is taking conscious and deliberate action to create more equitable opportunities for society and people of color in particular. How do we do that? Deli is sponsored by Moolah Kicks. Moolah is Moolah, like money, moolah, and kicks like shoes, one word. You can find them online at moolahkicks.com, and it's the first ever female-only brand basketball shoe. So it's a shout out to the basketball street culture, and it is also about fighting social injustice and gender inequality worldwide and here in the United States. And again, you can find them at moolahkicks.com. And now back to this incredible interview right here in the Sports Deli.
I saw something yesterday about parent evolution or parental evolution. I think everything just starts at home. You know, at the end of the day, I think with racism, I think with equity for women, I think it's just how parents raise their kids, how boys are raised different from females, how you're taught to respect females and males in certain situations, what they're allowed to do and what they aren't allowed to do. I think that's the basis. And I think the new generation is doing, I mean, they're obviously a little bit different. There's a lot more respect. It's growing, but the older generation are the people in charge. They're, you know, they're the CEOs, they're the owners. And so they're still making the decisions with the mindset that they've, you know, grown accustomed to having, and that hasn't been challenged for a very long time. So it just comes with time and getting new people in those positions. And that's how, I mean, at the end of the day, that's how I feel like things will change. I do like the fact that they have, you know, more diversity, and, you know, they're hiring like, you know, diversity and inclusion people at certain corporations and organizations. I think that would help in general, but at the end of the day, you know, the mindsets are still the same for the most part across the board. And until that changes, I just don't see anything really changing. I mean, we've come a long way, but, you know, like Barack said, everyone is, I mean, you still have a long ways to go. And it's going to depend on my nieces and nephews and the younger generation, how they come together and how their mindsets change and how they view it.
Okay, so this is the Sports Deli, right? So I'm going to give you a choice of two things, sort of extrapolating on the point that you just talked about. One is either advice for coaches and young coaches. And the reason I ask that is because I coach men 15 years and I coach women 15 years. This is my 15th year on the women's side. And I'm a professional basketball skills trainer. I've coached low income, first generation high school kids and women. As we approach the 50th anniversary of Title IX, girls quit much more often than boys do. And there's a disconnect for some reason with girls and coaches.
Right.
The other thing I thought about, obviously, which is an important space, safe space for you to talk about, is the LGBTQ plus community. And that article that you referenced that I asked me if I read was about just that, and non-binary. And in the old days, we used to just talk about if someone was homosexual, gay, lesbian, or bisexual. And now that's just not how it is. And there's a lot of people out there that just don't understand. And I, to be transparent, didn't understand a lot of it. And I've tried to educate myself. My good friend works at Kansas State under Coach Mitty in the women's basketball program. I asked her a question yesterday because I didn't understand some things. So
Right.
which one of those things do you want to grapple?
Coaching.
Okay, so tell me, where's the disconnect? Why do more girls quit? And what can we do as coaches to do a better job? Because there's no guidelines. There's no certification. You know, in tennis and golf and soccer and volleyball and other sports, you have to go through much more rigorous coaching, protocols to actually coach. And we just coach because either we're former players or we want to coach, or we like to yell. You know, where's the disconnect, and how can we change these narratives that more girls participate and understand that it's about life skills that they learn from it, not necessarily because they're trying to go play professionally?
I think the biggest thing is with young female athletes, they're very shy. The difference, and you coach guys and women, so you know, guys feel like they can already do everything. They feel like they're already good. They feel like at the end of the day, if they mess up, they already understand that comes with a part of the game. As far as females, just don't want to mess up. most females, most young athletes have a sense of perfectionism, or they want to look like they know what they're doing.
And Muffet McGraw talked about this, right, a couple of years ago, where she
Yeah.
said even women, when they get older, they
Yeah.
won't apply for jobs unless every box is
Yeah.
checked.
Every box
It's
is
like,
checked. Yeah.
yeah, like apply, just go after it, right? Like
Right,
trust
right.
yourself. Yeah, it's
So you have
crazy.
to have a great amount as a coach, and this isn't easy. That's the challenging part of, like, constructive criticism, making it fun, making them feel good about themselves. And it's a little bit more taxing than probably coaching the guys, because they want to see, like, oh, okay, once they see they can do it, I mean, you can push them to even greater heights. But the challenging part is just getting them out there and allowing them to fail, but not making it a negative when they fail. And so that's and then learning more about them on and off the court.
Yeah.
Basketball is not the end all. They're dealing with a lot of things, especially in middle school. I think that's when the biggest drop off is. In middle school, you're going through puberty. There's peer pressure. There's the boys, if you like the boys, and then if you're athletic, if you're better than them, they don't want to see you, like, with that whole thing. So there's just, the boys don't care. Like, they're getting on the team to get the girls,
Right.
Right.
For real.
So, like, it's a lot of different challenges that young female athletes have during those years. And then I think that's why the drop off is there.
I think it's important representation, obviously, in
Right.
one of the areas that I just talked about, but as a Black woman, as a God-fearing woman, to show people that you can be successful in ways that have been marginalized for so long, and still is marginalized when it comes to either people of color or people from the Hispanic community, et cetera. And so obviously, we could sit here and talk about Diana Taurasi all day, and Brittany
Right.
Griner and Skylar. But what have you learned from your childhood and your grandmother's raising you? And it wasn't just your grandmother's. Let's just be, frank
Yeah,
about
my
that.
mom's here. She's probably listening in, and she's like, "No, I did it. I did
Right.
it."
But
My parents were role models growing up. They instilled in us a lot of confidence. My mom was the one that was like, "I don't care how good you are. If you don't make good grades, you aren't playing." And she was very serious about that with my siblings, all of us. So we, first and foremost, education was most important. She was the Kumon teacher when we were growing up.
Wow.
So we had workbooks over the summer when all my friends were outside playing and having a good time. Oh, you understand? You feel my pain? Yeah. So
Did you fight it like my daughter does? She's like, why am I doing this in the summer?
No, I don't think many of us.
Oh, really?
Fought that
Yeah,
with
yeah.
my mom, and then she had the grandmother to reinforce
That's
it.
right.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. So no, my family was very instrumental in not just me, but all of my siblings being very successful, and
So how did that spill over with Coach Yao? I mean, she was an amazing woman, and then you being a leader. I mean, you weren't just a great player scoring over 2,000 points and 1,000 rebounds, leading your team to a Final Four, right? Like, did you really feel like your family's legacy was pouring out of you when you were in the WNBA overseas and at NC State? Like, did you not realize until later, like, damn, that's my grandma, that's my mom talking, that's their leadership, that's their spirit coming out and allowing me to be a phenomenal leader? Stelly is sponsored by Sport RX, the leader in sport prescription eyewear. You can find them online at sportrx.com, and don't forget to enter the code DELI10 at checkout for your special 10% discount. And now back to this incredible interview right here on the Sports Deli.
Yeah, I just think, for sure that I always carried that with me. That was a lot of, that was the most pressure I had. People were like, "Oh, how do you do so well in basketball?" Basketball part was very easy. It was the leadership side, and just, not wanting to disappoint myself, but disappoint my parents and my family and my Coach Al, of course. So Coach Al just kind of followed up. Like I tell everyone, like, my mom was very instrumental. But Coach Al was my basketball mom. So she's like my basketball mom. So everything I learned from coaching and basketball that was pretty much instrumental was Coach K. Al. And
people know about like John Chaney and Big John on the men's side and Coach K. Can you just briefly talk about her and just what kind of woman she was and what kind of an example she was when, the Pat Summits and the Kay Yows and, Julie Planks and, there's a lot of amazing women's coaches that people just don't know about.
Yeah, we really need an entire series on it. Hopefully,
Oh my
Netflix
God.
can have at some point have a series on the legendary coaches and pioneers of women's basketball.
Oh,
Coach Al was instrumental. Coach Hatchell. I mean,
yeah.
growing up in North Carolina, all females wanted to go to either Carolina or NC
Right.
State. That's what it came down to is my choice. But just the fact that they did it when it was very unpopular. I mean, a lot of people don't even know Coach Al also coached volleyball, track when she first got to NC State, softball. Like, they drove the buses. We didn't have uniforms. Like, when it was really, really, raw and no one supported it, those coaches believed in the game. And just to see what Coach Al did at NC State was still not a whole lot of support. And what she sacrificed, not only in her salary, but just trying to get coaches there, trying to get improvements for us, with the locker room and different things. Like, as a young athlete, I didn't really see everything she did, but I knew she stood firm in what she believed in. And that's why, for me, I can't shortchange the game, whether I'm coaching or playing, because I had a coach who went through everything and still didn't get what she deserved as far as, what she brought to NC State. So for me, I don't want to, that's why I keep working hard, even though if I feel like I'm not getting paid as much as I should, or if I don't get the opportunities that I should, I just think back to what those coaches went through and I'm like, I know I'm still paving the way. So
yeah,
it's a thin line of, still demanding a lot more, in this day and age. Everybody's like, give me this now, I deserve this. And so at the end of the day, I'm still in the middle of, like, the WNBA and women's basketball still isn't where it should be or where it's probably going to be 15, 20 years from now.
Right.
So at the end of the day, I'm still part of that, building it to be something sustainable for the long term.
It's amazing. Vivian Stringers, there's just so many and a long
there's
list.
So many. And they were all great women. Like, their stories definitely need to be heard, especially now where it's really popular and trendy to talk about women in sports and how important it is, and the equity and pay. I think if Twitter and social media, it would be popular if it became popular to really channel those stories and really get them publicized, then more people will understand what we're talking about with women's sports. Because a lot of people have no idea.
No idea. Yeah, and like I said, I've been I'm coaching a future WNBA player right now. She's playing overseas, and I can't believe when and I'm not going to tell you who it is, but the things that she doesn't know after playing 4 years in the Pac-12. So there's so much room for growth even still on the women's side, and the skill sets now is still amazing compared to what it used to be. But there's still so much room for growth, expansion. I know Auntie is pushing for it. In Toronto and others up in Northern California, and it's coming. It's definitely coming. So how was your experience in the NBA Finals this year? I got to ask just that, at least a quick question about that. Even though you guys lost, I apologize. But Coach Wade was on the show too, so now I got representatives from both sides.
Yeah, my mama told me yesterday I need to get over it, but I haven't. Clearly, it's like a fake. I'm over it. At the end of the day,
do you learn more from losing than you do
you
from
definitely
winning?
learn more from losing.
Yeah,
you definitely learn more from losing, and
but you didn't take them lightly, right? Like they were playing good ball, leading up, and they were upsetting everybody. But do you think there was a subconscious? Oh, they were only 16-16 in the regular season. We got this.
No way. I mean, Coach James Wade coaches Coach Diana and BG. So at the end of the day, this was a team that knew us really. This wasn't a team, that none of the players took lightly.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think I am not a person to make excuses, but kudos to Coach Wade and then winning the championship. Storybook ending for Candace. That was unbelievable. Candace Parker and
her reaction, I just got to say, was just.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. Another time that you see, it doesn't take much to move me to tears, but. And I wasn't always a huge fan of hers, but man, she really reinvented herself. And man, what an amazing story, not just for her in Chicago, but for the league.
Yeah, for the league, no, for sure. I mean, we ended up losing that first game at home, and now, the WNBA is You kind of got to have to be strategic, you know, at the end of the day. And even though, you know, people don't want to hear it, I mean, we went 5 games with the Aces, which we probably shouldn't have won that series. But we did, and I think it took a whole lot out of us. And you know, we played Friday night, and then we played Sunday at 12 o'clock against Chicago.
Right.
I can't say, you know,
Well,
obviously
and Chicago
players,
played great defense too. Like they made
yeah.
it even tougher, right? You're exhausted.
Well, yeah, they made it tougher, and yeah, of course, they knew we were tired. They knew we were exhausted. They had already come to the West Coast and got on West Coast time, so they were very readily available for our game. And so that hurt us to start the series. And I think just winning that series in Vegas, you know, going all the way 5 games, like it was a lot.
How's it to be around greatness though? You're around greatness.
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, the whole series was great. I was proud of the way the girls, the women fought back.
Yeah.
It was a good series with Chicago. You know, at the end of the day, you know, people can watch the game and they're just like, they can think a certain way, but when you know the ins and outs of the injuries, the chemistry, and everything that goes on with a team, because you know, you coach, then at the end of the day, you just got to be grateful. You do have to be grateful, like you got to the finals. But I mean, obviously we wanted to win. Obviously we wanted to get back to a game 5. And it's disappointing because we had just as good a team, if not better, to win the finals.
Yeah, of course.
But I mean, at the end of the day, that's the way the game goes. It's a game of runs. And even though I'm very disappointed, I still love this game.
Yeah, it's amazing how, and it's really speaks. I want to ask you a couple of rapid fire questions before I let you go. You know, when you're tired, even the professionals miss layups. And, you know, one of them, you know, Diana got pushed. But, you know, you can miss layups at that level in crunch time. And that's why when you're training, it's so important that you focus on every detail and don't take anything for granted. Okay, cotton candy or caramel apples?
Cotton candy.
Dang. Amazon or Walmart?
Amazon.
When you get dressed, you put your left pant leg on first or your right?
Right.
Wow, how do you know that so fast? Would you rather snuggle with a zebra or a giraffe?
Neither.
Euro or a floater?
Floater.
Jay-Z or Eminem?
Jay-Z.
Dave Chappelle or Kevin Hart?
Dave Chappelle.
And you supportive of what happened with him recently? Deli is sponsored by City Lokes, CITYLOCS. You can find them online at citylokes.com, where you can go and make your own personalized license plate hats. They're so cool. You got to check them out. And don't forget to enter the code TheSportsDeli at checkout for your special 10% discount. And now back to this incredible interview right here in the Sports Deli.
I have no qualms with Dave Chappelle, the closer. And for me, I've told a lot of people this, and I don't say that people are ignorant, but when you watch any of Dave Chappelle's shows, you kind of got to have some information. You got to be a reader, and you got to really listen, because he's not up there just kind of like popping off jokes where it's just like if I were to say a joke and you just laugh. Like there's a story behind it. It's intertwined with like an underlining meaning. And I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was brilliant from the beginning to the end, and how he ended it was so powerful. Like I thought the way he ended it was extremely powerful, because it was like he showed he was coming around. Like he the comedian that committed suicide, he said, when I meet his daughter, her daughter, he's like, I want to meet his daughter and say, I knew your father and she was a good woman. As at the end of the day, I mean, like that might have went over some people's head, but basically he was acknowledging like what she wanted people to feel like who she really was. But at the end of the day, we can go on and on about that. I just feel like his biggest thing was a lot of comedians are not being themselves because they're getting, you know, banned, they're getting canceled. And I'm not saying, like, there are a lot of crude comedians. There are a lot of comedians that say a lot of things that I don't agree with. I'm not gonna get up in arms about it. Like, that's what they do. It's just, they got to be true to who they are as a comedian and what they feel like their flow is.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
I like when he mentioned Kevin Hart getting canceled and not being able to do the Oscars. It's like he apologized, but at the end of the day, that could have been a real big dream of his. And I know as a coach, you know, I could get to a certain place, but there's things I probably might have done as a player that I wouldn't want someone to hold me to when I'm 50 and head coach somewhere.
For
you know,
real.
like I am not that person anymore.
Right.
So at the end of the day, I just think the way he talked about the cancel culture, the way he talked about his own, you know, evolvement, like I thought it was brilliant on what he does as a comedian.
Yeah. When he talks about everybody.
Yeah. Do I agree with everything he says? No, but I don't think it was as harsh as I really felt kind of question myself, like, why is everyone up in arms? Like,
fascinating.
I thought the Jewish community was going to have more fight about him.
Right.
Talked about the space Jews. I was like, he's going to be in trouble tomorrow.
Man, it was interesting.
But even the whole feminist underlining meaning he had and the story he had with the feminist thing, like, it was tricky on a whole lot of levels. So at the end of the day, I think he's very brilliant in what he does. And I just think you have to, I need to watch it again myself. Because you're
right,
laughing,
for sure.
You're
missing stuff.
You're missing stuff. So
how many times I watched Eddie Murphy back in the day? Like,
I
watched
it just one time and I'm like, I need to watch it at least 2 more times. So at the end of the day, I would go with Dave, but I just think he's very brilliant at what he does. But I will disagree with him on one thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Twitter is a real place for some people.
Yeah, it is, for real.
They will get fired, won't get a coaching job, won't get a scholarship. So I just want everyone to know, like, if you are Dave Chappelle, Twitter is a real place, okay?
So if you could have any 5 people at your dinner table, past or present, sports or non-sports, who would be at your dinner table? Would Dave be one of them?
It would be Oprah, Tyler Perry, Will Smith, Muhammad Ali, and Dick Gregory.
Oh, wow. Man.
So those are my 5 people.
That's awesome. Well, I hope to see you in a head coaching position sooner rather than later because you'll be a phenomenal head coach in that space. Yeah, much love and respect. I truly appreciate you spending some time with us.
Or even an assistant GM or GM, just putting that out there.
Well, we need people in the Black and brown community to have seats at the table in any leadership positions.
In any leadership role, I know I'll be really successful, and that's why I'm tackling my journey the way I am and learning as much as I can. And we'll see where we end up.
We got Renee in Atlanta. You know, we got a lot of people moving.
Yeah, they're paving the way.
Paving the way. Yep. All right. Much love and respect, Chasity. All right. Appreciate you. All right. Have a great off season. Talk to you soon.
All right.
All right. Peace. Yep. Man, that was amazing. Great conversation with Chasity Melvin, current assistant coach with the Phoenix Mercury of the WNBA. And I loved what she had to say about Dave Chappelle. And if you haven't checked that out, I encourage you to do so. There was a lot of controversy around him. And I think it's just a matter of understanding the spaces that people are in and the context and intent matters. And when you're a comedian, you can clearly get canceled, as she talked about with Kevin Hart. But it's important that we have to figure out, I guess, what that delicate balance is between cancel culture and knowing people's intent and just enjoying a night out with a comedian. So if you have any questions, you can always send us an email to thesportsdeli@gmail.com. You can find me on TikTok now at Mike Hootner and on Instagram at Mike Hootner. We can't thank you enough for sharing space with us. This has been a production of Hootie Hoot Productions and the Sports Deli podcast, where everyone deserves a seat at the table. And until next time, for Dr. J and Coach K, I'm Hootie Hoot. Black Lives Matter. Stop the bullying. Stop the Asian hate. And contact your local and state politicians for any changes that you think need to be changed, especially in the spaces of non-violent offenses, especially people of color who are disproportionately in jail for non-violent offenses and or crimes that they did not commit. Remember, it takes a village, and until next time, much love. Bet on women. Peace.